Hey guys, this is Jake from the Catnap podcast, and if you enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing to the SideCats YouTube channel. What's going on, everyone? This is Jake and Brandon, America's two gamers with the highest midichlorian count you've ever seen, and you're listening to the Catnap podcast. On this week's episode of the Catnap, we're talking about the first installment into the Catnap podcast video game book club, or the TCPVGBC for short, obviously. For our first entry into the book club, we were talking about the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, chapters 1 and 2. So, we're playing the games a little differently than each other. I am kind of following the story pretty narratively, or going to each planet pretty narratively. So, the story beats that we're going to read off to catch you up into where I am. This just kind of covers me. Brandon has taken a little bit different path, but also, Brandon, this is his second time playing the game, as this is my first time. So we're gonna have a little bit of different experiences, but join us for the ride. And this is where I am so far into the story. So if you don't know, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is an action adventure game developed by Respawn Entertainment and published by Electronic Arts. It was released for Windows, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One on November 15th, 2019. Brandon, you want to take that next one from me?
Okay. Star Wars Fallen Order takes place 5 years after the events of Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith. Amazing movie. I love it. 9 years before Star Wars Rebels and 14 years before the events of Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. In Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, the game follows young Jedi Padawan Cal Kestis as he is being hunted by the second sister Elizabeth Grulden?
I think that's right.
Yeah, sorry. And her partner, the ninth sister, both trained by the Sith Lord Darth Vader as part of the Imperial Inquisitors program.
So, 5 years after the Great Jedi Purge and the rise of the Galactic Empire, former Jedi Padawan Cal Kestis is hiding on the planet Bracca, where he works as a scrapper salvaging ships from the Clone Wars, and is hiding his Force abilities. After Cal is recorded by an Imperial probe droid while using the Force to save his friend Pralf, the two Inquisitors known as the Second Sister and Ninth Sister are sent to investigate. After the Second Sister kills Pralf for speaking up against the Empire, Cal makes his escape, briefly engaging in a duel with the Second Sister before he is rescued by the former Jedi Knight Seer Junda and her pilot Grease Dridus. I think Dridus is probably how you say his
You're
last
probably
name.
right.
In their ship, the Stinger Mantis.
Seer takes Cal to the planet Bogano in the hopes that he can access the ancient vault. En route to the vault, Cal befriends a small droid named BD-1, who shows him a message from former Jedi Master Eno Cordova, revealing that the vault was built by an ancient civilization called the Zepho, and that a Jedi holocron containing a list of Force-sensitive children has been hidden inside by Cordova. Seer believes that the list could help rebuild the Jedi Order, and the only way to access the vault is by following Cordova's path. Cal heads to the Zepho homeworld and explores an ancient temple, finding a clue pointing to Cordova's friend, the Wookiee chieftain Tarful.
So that is where we are, or I am, I should say, with my experience and my playthrough of the game. These are the first two planets, if you don't count the first one of, what is it, Bracca? I already forgot.
Yeah, it's Bracca.
Where do you start? If you don't count Bracca, I've completed the first two planets, and we'll talk about each one individually. The first two chapters, we'll talk about them. But before, I think we should kind of talk about how, or what our relationship is with Star Wars. Personally, we haven't seen the same things in Star Wars. Like, I know you've watched more of the Clone Wars show than I have.
Mm-hmm.
But I've watched all of the movies, including like the side stories like Solo.
That's the only one I haven't seen.
And have you seen all the Mandalorian?
Yeah.
Okay, so then I've just seen Solo, and you've seen more of the Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm. Have you watched Rebels?
No, I have not watched Rebels yet either, actually.
I haven't watched Rebels.
So, but that is canon Star Wars, but that's more sort of a kid-friendly version on the show, and I think it takes place during the new trilogy era, if I'm not mistaken. I don't really know too much about Rebels.
It's before Episode 4.
Oh, it is? What is what am I thinking of? There's another. I'm thinking of something different. Then there's another show that takes place with like Poe Dameron. That's a more kid friendly version.
Yeah, I only know Rebels is before episode 4 because there's a confrontation with Obi-Wan and Darth Maul, and Obi-Wan's like at like the point that he looks like Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan.
Right.
So I'm
right.
like it's right there.
Oh, okay. I can't remember what the other one is called then, but regardless, so we were pretty invested into Star Wars. Do you think this something that I didn't think that we'll talk about this a little bit more in a minute, but I think that this game doesn't really hurt or add too much to the greater Star Wars, but I think it fits a nice place that the games haven't always kind of fulfilled. The games have kind of just been like a retelling of the same old stuff, but this kind of has its own narrative that doesn't add or subtract to the greater Star Wars as a whole. That's just how I was feeling about it.
I think it fits. I think it fits. It's like, I mean, you don't hear anything about these characters in movies or anything, but
Right.
I mean, it doesn't subtract any type of investment that you can have in them without it feeling like it disrupts any of your other likings or dislikings from movies or shows.
Right.
So, I think overall, it definitely just fits.
It is a great story idea. I think it's very unique. I think the game as a whole is very unique, from the story to the gameplay to the different mechanics. I think it's a really unique story that I'm pretty invested in already, having only played for a handful of hours in just the beginning area. I'm really excited to see how it's going to wrap up and see Vader, obviously, because we're fighting his apprentices for most of the game.
Right.
So I'm so excited to see them, maybe some exposition about them, some interaction between them and Vader, possibly. And you've played this all, so you know I could be completely off base. I might not see some of these things. I might actually see some of these things. Do you think the second time through, do you think the story still holds up as well as when you first played it? Or are you like just remembering everything, like just remembering everything again because it kind of took a backseat to the gameplay?
Considering that I 100%ed the game the first time I played it, I mean, I still remember everything because, you know, when you 100% it usually just gets ingrained in your mind.
Yeah.
But overall, like, it's still an awesome game to look at, an awesome game to like experience, because there's some really awesome moments that you're coming up on that I will not spoil, but there's some dope moments. Like it is certainly like a epic, like it deserves to be like in a Star Wars like universe because of the stuff that goes on, and it's and like all the mechanics and everything make you feel like a Jedi. I know that's stupid to say, but like with the force pull and push and stuff like that, that you can actually use them against enemies to create advantages or disadvantages or whatever. It just all works. It's and the game definitely still like captivates me when I play it.
So something I want to jump into, I'm kind of going to do this out of order. I want to talk about things that we're liking so far with your replay in my first playthrough, and things that we're not feeling as much. I'm going to start with the things I'm not feeling as much, because one of the things is I wish I had more of his standard Jedi abilities from the start. Not so much as like cool moves like jumping over a guy, rolling over him, hitting Y again, doing 2 attacks, whatever. I mean, more of like, I wish I had force push from the start, force pull from the start, just being able to run on walls from the start.
Double jump.
I understand. Yeah, I understand that. It's a way to give Cal exposition into his training by remembering things that I don't know if they explained why he forgot them. Maybe just because he hadn't been using them or something. I just wish from the start I had more of those abilities that really open the game up from the start.
I mean, I think what he said is he kind of cut himself from the Force a little bit.
Right.
Because, like, if I remember, like, in the movies, you'd be like, I sense this person or whatever, like, through the
Right.
Force. Like, I vaguely remember things like that happening, like when Darth Maul first shows up and Qui-Gon feels his, like,
Yeah.
he
Yep.
tells Anakin to, like, get down and all that stuff because he can feel him coming. I feel like a good thing, like, a good reason for him not to be able to have it all is because he cut himself from the Force and he kind of lost that ability or the training in mind to be able to do those things. I'm making that up personally. I don't know if that's true.
I can't remember otherwise. That sounds about right, and it sounds like a way that they could explain that. I just wish that some basic Jedi things he
Still remembered.
had from the start, like going through my the first couple areas. You can see places that, like, oh, I should be able to force push this down. It's so obvious that I just can't do that right now. But even if you didn't have the force, there's some things that you could just, like, physically push. And the thing that I'm afraid of is that they are not giving you these abilities from the start because it makes the game longer by inviting you to come back to the places, by just adding, like, just padding time by inviting you to come back to these places later on. I have no problem coming back to the places later on to do more exploring. Maybe the levels change up a little bit the further you get into the game. But just going back just because you gained one ability now kind of feels like, I don't know. It just feels a little weak to me. It's not the biggest thing in the world by far. It's definitely not a deal breaker. But I just feel like it's padding time a little bit.
I don't know if you've played a Dark Souls game.
I mean, I have, yes, but the thing with this is, when you think of Jedi, I haven't played Dark Souls as much as you by far. I played Dark Souls 3 a little bit, didn't beat it. But when you think of Jedi, and he has a lightsaber, he's still got his lightsaber training, he's still good with the saber. But when you think of Jedi, you think of, like, some basic things like force push, just some basic things that I feel like he should have maybe from the start. I might be alone on this. I don't know how, coming from, like, your second playthrough, knowing that you get these abilities later on, you're like, oh, I gotta come back with this ability to do that. Do you feel like that's annoying you at all, or is it just like it is what it is?
It's not annoying because it helps you throughout the rest of the game. Like, my point I was gonna make was, like how in Dark Souls you have the Estus flasks,
right?
Like BD1 has the health stims, and you only have a certain amount of those.
Yeah.
Like, it's worth going back to places because the game will give you advantages later on. Like, I'm not gonna, like, say exactly because there's more than one. Like, I gave you a little subtle tip to maybe one of them, but it's worth to go back and search rest of the areas because then later on you won't be like, fuck, I can't beat this boss because I don't have enough stims.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I love that stuff. And plus, it lets you see the rest of the planet and all the game that they developed, and the game looks amazing.
Yeah. No, I do understand going back, and it's something I'm going to do at some point. I do understand going back and exploring more and utilizing the map in different ways. It's just frustrating seeing a wall that's glowing red that I know I should be able to push down, and I can't push that down for another hour or two of gameplay that I gotta come back and do later. It's just like, maybe if I didn't know that could be pushed down by it's, like, not even being highlighted red or something until I have that ability, that would be different then. I think it's just that the fact that it's glowing red and I'm just standing there like, am I supposed to do something with this? Like, I remember on the first planet, I'm leaving the temple after talking to Cordova's recording, and there's this big metal wall that's glowing red. I'm like, I gotta do something here, right? And I just end up leaving because I'm like, I guess not.
Not yet.
Now I understand that you force push it probably later, so I'll come back and do that. But it just feels, it's a little frustrating. Not the biggest deal in the world, obviously. Go ahead.
I know on the first planet, Bogano, there is a certain enemy that you can run into, and I was just wondering if you've run into it.
Yeah, that was my. I was gonna talk about that at when we talk about chapter 1, the Ogdo Bogdo fight. The Ogdo Bogdo fight kicked my ass, man. Oh my god, I was getting so frustrated. But I know I was under leveled, and there was 2 things I did wrong. One, I was under leveled. I didn't have enough stims. I should have leveled up a little bit more. The other thing was, above Ogdo Bogdo are 2 holes. One doesn't land on him. The other one does. But to get to the one that does, you have to walk a little bit past
The first
the one that doesn't land on him. Didn't know that until I killed Ogdo Bogdo. That would have helped tremendously.
Yeah, you can get the sneak attack.
So I fought Ogdo Bogdo just mano a mano with no advantage whatsoever, and he kicked my ass quite often. I eventually got him, thank God. But yeah, the Ogdo Bogdo fight was cool. I like those little mini bosses hidden throughout the level. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just one of those things that if you would adventure a little bit, something cool and something to help you out would be right there. There's 2 other things that I'm not feeling as much. I don't know if there's anything that you're noticing on your replay that you're not feeling as much, or things that have kind of changed since you played last.
Not with gameplay. It might be on my end, but I'm just running into some performance issues stuff. Like that's right. Just, it might just be me, because you said that you haven't run into them.
Yeah, no.
Maybe I just had a bad download or something. But I'm getting like kind of big frame drops when I enter new areas and stuff like that. Like I ended up fixing it, but it, like, in the beginning I was just like, this is borderline unplayable at some points.
Yeah.
But I think that was just me though. Sorry.
The thing that we've kind of agreed on off camera of could be improved are the cutscenes, because they use I guess it's the in-engine type of cutscene. Like Mass Effect is most known for these cutscenes. Skyrim, stuff like that. Skyrim has like literally it's just like a text box kind of pops up.
Yep.
But Mass Effect kind of utilizes these. So the cutscenes, they're not horrible by any means. No. But we both felt like they could be better. Nitpicky, definitely, but just something that we both agreed on.
Maybe some of the face mapping could have been a little better.
A little better.
Cal Kestis can look like a freak sometimes.
But in other times, the game looks great, though.
Yeah.
It's just like sometimes the cutscenes are a little hit or miss. I think in the bright lights, they're a little iffy. I think in the darker, more cinematic kind of areas,
it works.
Not as bad.
Yeah, it works there more. Because it's kind of more difficult to see like a little tidbits of stuff that's a little messed up.
Yeah.
But I mean, overall, the game does look very good.
The only other thing that is a little frustrating for me, and I assume this gets alleviated later with a double jump, is the platforming is fun when it works, but completely takes me out of the game when it doesn't work. Notably on chapter 2, the ice slopes.
Yep.
There are some very precise jumps you need to make that I feel like shouldn't be as tight as they are. The wall run, you only are on that wall for a couple of seconds, and then you gotta jump at the right time. There's a couple jumps throughout the game that I'm like, oh, this is gonna be easy, and I just completely whiff. And I'm like, wow, I was doing all this sliding down ice and blah, 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 and I just fall off the map. And I gotta do it again. So it's just like I feel like the jumps are a little too short. Maybe that's just me. It's definitely nitpicky, but maybe that's just a little me problem.
It's the game, because it doesn't give you the double jump. And later on, the double jump fixes that immediately.
Yeah.
Like, you notice it, like, right away. You can even, like, fix, like, from mistakes that you like, if you jump at the wrong time, you're like, oh, fuck. And then you have the second one that just corrects it. Right. And it's not like, I don't know how many games, actually, that I've played recently that have, like, a double jump. I've been playing a lot of borderline realistic games.
Yeah.
That don't have a double jump.
No.
But, it's not one of those games that gives you like a double jump, which is like your full jump a second time, if you know what I mean. It's like a little extra boost. It's not a full jump, but overall it does fix a lot of the platforming.
Would you rather the double jump or like a traditional Jedi leap?
What are we talking, Battlefront 2?
Not Battlefront 2 extreme, but I would love just like a
High
like
jump.
a high jump.
No.
Yeah, something like that.
No, I like the double jump. It works for platforming
Okay,
better.
so I'll look forward to that then. I think that's gonna be cool.
Yeah, no, it fixes it. And that one's and I mean, that one's quite a ways into the game. So
Okay. Something to really look forward to.
yeah. It's something you got to get used to.
Yeah.
For now, for sure. But
Let's stop being negative. Let's get a little positive here.
okay.
Things that I'm liking so far with the very little that I've played, obviously. Sound design, level design, super fucking strong and keep the game so fresh. The lightsaber sounds magnificent. It is a great sounding lightsaber. That is a very unique sound, and if you do it wrong, can completely ruin the immersion, but they fucking nailed it.
Yeah.
I'm very picky about lightsaber sounds. They nailed it. It is so good. It's got that nice crackle. It's got that nice little tinge to it. It's beautiful.
Like after all this time of EA making Star Wars games, I think by this point they'll have that shit down. Like
they definitely do. It's very good.
like Battlefront, like every single lightsaber that each like Jedi has its own sound. Like, and they even nailed Kylo Ren's like super aggressive lightsaber.
Oh yeah, yep.
That's probably like people will probably hate me, but that's probably one of my favorite lightsabers.
That's definitely one of my favorite lightsabers too.
Just the way it sounds, it's just so menacing.
It's sick.
It's so cool. But this game definitely does have sound design like that's just so good. It puts you into Star Wars like so heavy, and you're like, all right, I'm here. Let's go.
And the level design is also super cool. I'm loving the Metroidvania type gameplay that I'm going through, and I do really appreciate that they help you unlock shortcuts, and they're like, shortcut unlocked. This is going to help you for later when you're going to come back here.
Yep.
I love that. Going back to a planet or going back to a level that is the same exact thing that you played the first time through, horrible. I hate when games do that. It makes me not want to replay levels ever. But they allow you to unlock different paths and stuff. Genius. It is such a good design. Their levels are laid out so nicely, and they look beautiful. It's just a really, really smart, well thought out design overall for me.
I mean, if you like that, you'll love Dark Souls games because the way it's not exactly Dark Souls because it's Star Wars, but the meditation points are bonfires.
Yes.
And so, and the way bonfires used to work, 3 made them more common, but like in 2 and 1, they would be rare. And the way that you would end up being able to go back into farther points without redoing the whole thing is you'd make a shortcut by elevator or moving a certain rock or stuff like that. And so you'd be able to use that same bonfire from maybe an hour ago now to get to the point that you just made to. So that's been a Dark Souls thing, Dark Souls-like thing for like ever. But they did it in this game just as well as those. So, I mean, kudos. And I get what you mean, like doing the same area over and over again.
Yeah, it's rough.
It's annoying. But yeah, no, shortcuts definitely make the game definitely more playable, like for a longer bout, you know, without tiring yourself out.
Yeah. Just speak to the Metroidvania type game as a whole, and just how it's taking inspiration from Dark Souls. I think this is a great idea for a game that, with Star Wars on top of it, is just a genius idea for a game. It's really, really smart, and I love all the different influences that it's taking from other games, like Dark Souls. I feel like the climbing on the side of like mountains and stuff kind of has like a Breath of the Wild hint to it.
I'd say more Uncharted, but
Uncharted 2, that's definitely a good comparison, but I'm loving all the little things that it's pulling from different games and whatnot. I think it's a really, really well thought out game that works perfectly in the Star Wars universe as its own kind of story. Like I said, it doesn't take away or add a whole lot to Star Wars as a whole, but it fits perfectly, and it's not intruding on anything. I think it's just great overall.
Yeah, it takes the advantage of you being a Jedi Padawan who has high mobility, high strength, high all these things, like high endurance, and being able to use them to their fullest. Like not a normal person can fucking wall run or swing from a rope like a normal human being. That would never happen. And so it's just like, yeah, because you're a fucking Jedi, man. And so fucking go at it.
Yeah, it's really, really a really smart game. A really smart game. Those are, I'm sure there's 1,000 other things that we could talk about that we like and maybe dislike a little bit, but I say we move on to chapter 1.
Oh wait, I want to talk about something.
Go for it.
BD1.
Genius.
What do you think about BD1?
I think it's a great companion that serves an overall function that benefits the player. It's not a forced companion just to say, here's a companion. It is a companion that adds to the gameplay as a whole. The one downside, I think, to BD1 is how many fucking things it scans. Oh my god. There is things everywhere for this little dude to scan. Hey, here's a little rock. I'll tell you all about this rock and why this rock is here. It's like I feel like there's just so many things for it to scan that sometimes I'm like, wait, did I just see a little, like I'm walking down and there's like, for half a second it flashes, scan me. And I'm like, was that a scan? Am I scanning that right now? And I walk back, I'm trying to angle the camera right. Oh yeah, and there's something to scan right there. That's the only thing I don't really like, but that's not necessarily a BD1 thing. It's just like, there's so many. Yeah. But no, I think BD1 is great. Great companion. We always need a robot sidekick. I think BD1 is a great way to incorporate healing into the game. Really smart.
I don't know why they do this. I don't know why there's like a droid language and people can understand it. But like for subtitles for the game, it's still just beep, beep, boop.
Yeah.
Like there's one point in the game, you've definitely gotten to it, where Cal's like, he's climbing something. He's like, BD1, tell me a joke. And BD1's just like, beep, boop, boop. And then he's like, haha, classic. And it's just like, I don't get it. What do you say?
Yeah, but that's always Star Wars, though. It's like, what has R2-D2 ever said? What does Chewbacca ever say? It's very Star Wars. I like how they kind of play into that a little bit. I think it's clever.
Yeah, but BD1 is definitely like, he's not a forced, like, a character. Because in the beginning, you're like, okay, well, cool, droid. And then later on, he just hops on you, and you're like, okay, cool. So he's not going to be a character I'm going to have to take care of. You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to get picked up by an enemy, and I'm going to have to fucking save him. Like that would be annoying.
Like Ashley in, what is it, Resident Evil 2?
Yes. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, he's not a character that you're going to have to take care of or anything. So... like in all the situations with scans and everything, I like how I'm a person that 100% in it, so I like that he helps you with it. Like he'll hop off of you and run towards a scannable, and then if you go too far, he'll be like, BD, come over here, and then you just see him waddle his way back over and hop on your back.
Yeah.
So it's nice that he's like a living character instead of just something that sits on your shoulder too.
Yeah,
so,
that is true.
So yeah, no, BD's awesome, and there's a lot of awesome moments between the two of them. So
yeah, I'm excited to grow that relationship. If anything bad happens to BD1, there's gonna be a problem. There's gonna be a big fucking problem. All right, are we missing anything, or should we continue here?
Yeah, we can continue. Yeah, touchdown.
So we read the blurb of the story and exposition to this point so far, so we're gonna backtrack a little bit and give that some context. So chapter 1, I have kind of described it as Braca and Bogano. Braca is the scrapper junkyard that you start out in, and Bogano is where you meet BD1. Seer takes you there, and you meet Cordova. And then chapter 2 is Zepho and the Tomb of Elaram, which is where you're told to go to Kashyyyk next. So let's start with chapter 1, Braca and Bogano. For me, what I had noted was I'm a big fan of the story so far, but I think that possibly Seer might turn on us in the end or something. I'm not 100% sold on Seer's kind of relation to the Jedis yet. I'm not 1,000% sold on it. I really want to see where it goes. You obviously have the knowledge of what happens. I may be completely off the mark here, but this is just something I noted down early in my first playthrough.
Yep.
What I'm interested for you is, what is your first kind of take on chapter 1, having played it again now?
It's still solid. It definitely draws you in. And makes you like guess what's happening. But yeah, Bracca's dope because fucking there was like a huge ass Sarlacc pit in the middle of it. It's just like, okay. But yeah, no, the relationship with Cere in the beginning is just like, you don't know her. Why is she being so like nice to you? You know what I mean? Like, she helps you like immediately, and you feel like she's withholding information from you, but you don't know why. But and Grease is like just comic relief, or whatever.
Classic.
The classic comic relief. But yeah, I mean, since I've played it, I don't really want to touch on it too much because I said my piece. It's just like I like it. It's good. If you're a Star Wars fan, it'll pull you in almost immediately. Right. The planets look awesome and everything's pretty well polished. So,
are you do you think you're hurt by the experience of already beating the game and being the super Jedi, going back now and being just normal like Cal from the beginning? Do you think you're hurt by that at all, or it's a fun experience regardless?
It definitely sucks not having all the abilities, like knowing where to use them all, and how they can help you against certain enemies, making you weaker and all. But I mean, that's the game. Like,
right,
you need to play the game to get stronger in the game. So, no, I don't think it hurts you. I mean, if you were to able to just take that away, that there would be no point to playing it, in my opinion. Like, the journey is with Cal Kestis, and relearning everything and learning about all the history you have with your original master and stuff like that. So
I get that. We touched on this a little bit earlier for me, but something I had noted was that, one, the gameplay is a little harder than I expected. Like, I was getting my ass beat by Ogdo Bogdo, and I was like, man, I gotta kind of take this seriously. This is not just like hit X, 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 kill the fucking giant frog like in the old Star Wars games. What were they called? I keep wanting to say Ultimate Alliance. I know it's not Ultimate Alliance. What is Star Wars something something something? You were Vader's apprentice in that.
Oh, Force Unleashed.
Force Unleashed, and that it was just like X, 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 Y, big slash, blow up the whole fucking map.
Hold up.
And this is like, oh, you actually have to kind of try in this. And I was like, okay, it's not what I expected.
Yeah.
But I noted this also in the beginning, that Cal feels a little weak for me. Just something I noted. I feel a little stronger now, having completed the end of chapter 2. I feel like I'm getting the ball rolling. I'm getting the controls right. I'm leveling up at a pretty good pace. But just in the very beginning, I was like, man, he's kind of weak. I feel like for a Jedi. I wonder if other people had this experience too.
Well, the thing is that he was still a Padawan. That's true. He was still training when
that is very true.
Stuff happened. So I guess he never really fully got the completion of his training. So yeah, I can forgive him for being pretty weak.
Okay,
but
that's a good way to put it. I didn't think about that.
So, I mean, you'll learn more about what happens later.
Right.
It's definitely awesome to see a different side of that certain situation. But
yeah,
it's I can totally forgive him for being weak off the bat.
The last thing that I noted from my playthrough of chapter 1 was I'm loving the ability to navigate and explore where I want to, for the most part. There's stuff I have to come back to later, but I'm just, like we said, I love the level design. I love this openness that I can create shortcuts. I can kind of go places. If I don't want to go places, I don't have to, for the most part. And yeah, I was just loving that early navigation and early exploration. That's all the things I really had noted from chapter 1. I don't know what you had down, if I didn't steal them already.
You basically already said all the good stuff. The first thing you learn, the first new ability, that's the wall run, right? Because you walk up to that one area and you're like, the lizards run on the wall.
Yeah.
So I can run on the wall too.
Yeah.
And you have that cool scene going back to when he was a kid, which he has the biggest head. I think I've ever seen.
It's funny when there's that lizard cutscene,
Right.
and there's like a giant mud slope,
Yes.
and the lizards are coming down that and like down the wall. I maybe tried for 5 minutes getting up that mud slope, like jumping between the walls. I was like, what am I doing? And I'm like, oh, I just gotta turn around and walk on that wall.
You gotta go backwards.
Maybe for 5 minutes, I'm like jumping between. I was like, I can't get up this mud. What is happening? I just saw these lizards do it. Why can't I?
Well, the way you saw them was they came towards you, and then you saw them keep going along the wall back the way you came from. So I guess the game was trying to lead you, but I can understand that you're like, but I see the marks there, and I can go
Completely missed it.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean that's a place you need double jump.
Yeah, you can back and forth on that wall.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, I guess they want me to use it right away. Cool, let's do it. But I was like, oh, they're like, nope, back there.
Go back,
wall.
go back, idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and is that the only ability you've learned so far?
So I've learned that, and then in the Tomb of Elram, right? I'm saying that right?
Yeah.
That's where you learn the force push, because there is a puzzle in that requires you moving the big metal balls, and you learn that the guards, whatever the guards are called, they're weak to the force push after a heavy attack.
Yeah.
So those are the two that I've learned so far.
Yeah, like when they go for attack and they're glowing, you force push, and then the ball comes out, and then they're super weak. That's what I was gonna touch on. Just being able to use those abilities against certain enemies, and like get a total advantage. Like those guys take like maybe like 20 hits, but if you get that out, you can take them out in like 4.
Yeah, you can just cheese their next cycle and just keep swinging, and you finish them off before they get off their next attack.
Yeah, like just being able to learn and use abilities like that are what make this game like so much fun. Yeah. Like you can feel yourself like getting better at it. You know what I mean? And just definitely nailing things. Like this game in the beginning, like parry. You have to parry everything, or else you.
I don't do that enough. Lose. I definitely don't.
Like I played so many games where parrying is like crucial. Like right now I'm playing Surge 2, and that game has a huge parry function. I won't touch into that because that's not what we're talking about, but just parrying is almost like crucial.
Yeah.
So if you can get good at that, you can beat anything.
For chapter 2, a lot of things we already talked about. The different paths to unlock shortcuts is what I had written down. I think the game has, especially chapter 2, has a nice mix of puzzles, combat, and platforming to keep it fresh and not stale, and just here's combat, here's puzzle, big puzzle, figure this puzzle out, and then do this big platforming. I think it's a nice mix of everything. And the only other thing that I had written down for chapter 2 was at the end of it, the AT-ST fight. I thought that was hella easy in comparison to like the Ogdo fight. Like that was hard because I was kind of underleveled, but the AT-ST fight was really easy. Like really easy. I thought it would be a little harder.
What difficulty are you on?
I'm on the 2nd difficulty, so you would call it normal.
Yeah, no, I'm on Jedi Master, so.
Is it the hardest or the 3rd hardest?
That's the third. That's the third. I'm not a masochist. I just like a little.
So is that? Do you think? How was that AT-ST fight for you then?
It still wasn't hard, but I'll give the fact that that's a story beat boss fight instead of a boss fight you had to go out and find. You know what I mean? That's true.
Yeah.
So the game doesn't want to stump you in the story, and like that's just my thought. Like, you fight, like more or less most of the story boss fights are pretty straightforward, and like some of them are hard. I'm not gonna go ahead and say that they're easy. No,
yeah, I can tell just based off that little interaction we had with the first sister or whatever.
Yeah, but that was a scripted boss, so.
Yes, but that's still. I was like, oh, this is how. Okay.
Lightsaber to lightsaber combat is definitely a lot more difficult than everything else in the game.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I just thought that fight was a little easy. I get that it's just kind of story, advance the story a little bit, but for me it just felt a little easy. I wish there was a little more to it, like a second AT-ST or some shit. I don't know.
Just drop another one on you.
Yeah, I don't know.
You can basically dodge all of its attacks, and the only thing that makes it difficult is like if you're attacking its legs, it'll drop a bomb, and sometimes that'll fuck you up. That's definitely the worst ability it has. Everything else can basically be deflected back at it. Or since you had push, it shoots missiles out. You can just push the missiles back. Like,
Oh, you know what I did? I actually just remember this. I have the time freeze.
oh, could you use that on that?
That's yes, and that's all I did. I forgot about that. That's all I did to it. I would just freeze it, get up there, and just slash 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 slash, back out, and then deflect when it shoots the two
Cannons in the front.
Yeah, I would just deflect that, freeze, and get back in there.
Yeah, no.
That's all I did for it. I forgot about the freeze ability.
If there's a missile enemy, push is your best friend because you can just push the missile straight back.
Okay.
And blow them up. It's pretty hilarious.
It's cool to see how like we both played that boss completely differently. Mm-hmm. That's pretty interesting to see. But yeah, that's all I had really for chapter 2. I don't know if there's anything that you had that I didn't say or anything.
Well, I have kind of I might have gone off the beaten path because in the beginning of the game you have access to 3 planets.
Dathomir is the last one.
Dathomir is the last one. I don't know if you want to touch on it.
That's up to you. We're pretty much at the end here. It's up to you if you want to bring it up or if you want to touch on it next week. Totally up to you.
We can bring it up next week because it might be something that you can run into by then. So I'll bring it up next week.
let's do that then. So next week I was thinking, Kashyyyk, and then I'm gonna do a little backtracking and then hit Dathomir, real quick.
There you go.
And I think that'll be good for our next podcast because this one ran a little long because we had to kind of introduce the game and explain how we've all this extra fucking exposition bullshit. So next week we'll talk about Kashyyyk, Dathomir, and a little backtracking, and then the week after that we'll see what's what. But yeah, any extra thoughts that I haven't hit on? I've covered everything I've written down. I don't know if there's something that you have that I don't have here.
I just personally wanted to know what's the worst enemy you've gone up against yet? What have you had?
As in hardest, or worst as in
what has given you the hardest time?
Definitely Ogda Bogdo.
If
you don't include bosses,
yeah.
You know what it was at the end of where was I? At the end of it must have been Zepho before you face the ATST. There's 2 troops. There's it might be a Death Trooper. It's in all black.
Purge Trooper.
Purge Trooper, and there's someone else with it.
They're both Purge Troopers.
That fucked me up. Oh wait, they were both Purge Troopers for you?
Well, I mean, the all black is a Purge Trooper.
But they both all black though?
Yeah, they're both all black.
No, for me, only one was black, and the other one was just the one with the electric fucking stick thing.
He wasn't all black for you? What color was he?
No. It was one white and one black one. One of the heavy troops or whatever the fuck they're called.
Okay.
Maybe that's a difficulty thing.
Maybe.
So that fight was pretty tough because it's kind of the first time I got there. It was kind of the end of a long series of fights and traveling, and I hadn't hit a meditation spot yet, so I was pretty low health going into that fight. And going back to it again, it was still a little tough, even though I had more health. That fight was pretty tough. So definitely the Purge Trooper and whoever the guy with the electric stick is. That was a pretty tough fight.
I just wanted to know.
Okay. No, but it's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up because maybe that's something we need to look out for is differences in difficulty. Enemy
placement, things like that.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll have to look forward. We'll have to keep an eye out for that then.
All right.
If there's anything notable, we'll have to write it down, bring it up next week. But that's it. Yeah, that's it for this episode of the Catnap podcast and our first edition of the TCPVGBC. Everyone knows what that stands for. I don't need to go over it again. Thank you so much for watching. Brandon, where can people find you on social media and such?
Down the description below, I'll have my my Twitter link and my Twitch link. The Wolf on Twitch. I've been a little bit lacking on streaming a little bit. I definitely need to pick that back up, but I should be streaming like every other day at like 3:00. So like Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, Monday. I just did Sunday, Monday because, you know, the 7-day week doesn't work on every other day schedule. So I just do Sunday and then Monday and then I just go again. So yeah, every day, or every other day at like 3 p.m. Check me out, Twitch. So
find me, description as well, Emoji Jake G on pretty much everything. Facebook. Why do I say Facebook? I don't use Facebook. Fuck it.
Oh, yeah.
Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. You know the deal. That's all for this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time.